The world of Ekis is a bountiful world filled with natural resources and scientific discovery. However, it is also a world filled with terrible natural disasters. To combat this, Dr. Gray created a team of high-tech androids with the power to prevent these disasters. But something went wrong, and now the androids have rebelled against their master. Only Elsie, Dr. Gray's newest and most advanced creation, can stop them and put an end to the destruction that is ravaging the world. Welcome back to the neighborhood. My name is Andrew, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the new action roguelite game, Elsie. What is Elsie? Elsie is a 2D pixel art roguelite game developed by Night Shift Games and published by Playtonic. You control Elsie, an android who is tasked with finding the other androids created by Dr. Gray and bringing them home. To do this, she will have to battle her way through a variety of diverse levels over the course of multiple runs. Each run will be different from the last because the structure and order of the levels changes each time. Along with this, the abilities and weapons you take with you each time will also change, as you unlock more options as you play through the game. Let's start off talking about the things that I like about Elsie. First of all, this game looks incredible. The pixel art, the colors, I love everything about the way this game looks. It's super stylish, super flashy. All the enemies have very distinct designs that look cool, but also give you an idea just from the visuals of what they're going to do as far as attacking and movement and things like that. The character designs are also really good for the main cast of characters and the main androids. Overall, only good things to say about the visuals in this game. Paired with that is the music. If you watched my preview video for Elsie, you'll have heard a little slice of the music. Maybe there will be one in this video as well, but if not, it'll be one of the first things that you notice when booting up Elsie, is they knocked the music out of the park. I think that the opening level, the first level that you play, probably has my favorite track, but all of them have distinct sounds while feeling like a cohesive package that fits the aesthetic of the game. And they're all done really well, and there were a few of them that were stuck in my head while I was playing through this game during the review period. But it's not just the visuals and the audio. The gameplay is also very excellent. It's tight, it's responsive. This game is 2D. There's a mixture of action and kind of bullet hell, dodging what the enemies are throwing at you, and also a little bit of platforming in there. And for that to work and for that to feel good, the game has to be responsive. It has to feel good when you push the buttons, and this one does. I think that there were a few platforming sections that got a little frustrating to me, but for the most part, I felt totally in control of my character. I felt like when I died, it was because I made a mistake and not because the game wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. Overall, I think that the gameplay is fantastic in Elsie. And the other side of the gameplay coin is that the level variety is solid. The level variety is very good. So there's a handful of different biomes, each with their own look and feel, and then each one of those biomes will have procedurally generated levels or screens that you fight your way through or navigate your way through on each run. So there's variety with each run, even though you're going through the same biomes aesthetically. Each run is going to be fresh and different. I think that there is enough variety in the screens that you encounter to keep it fresh for the length of the game. The hub world that you go back to when you die or when you finish a run is called the Wharf, and I think it's pretty good. The Wharf is nothing special. It's one screen where you can interact with some side characters, where you can go to spend your currency for permanent unlocks, whether those be new vending machines in the levels that allow you to upgrade things in your run or get more health, or whether that be new items and weapons that you will be given throughout your run. So it's good. There's like definite carrots of progression for you to chase there. I don't think it's anything super special, but I really, again, love the music there. I like the aesthetic, the vibes, so I think it's good. As far as difficulty goes, this is going to be something I'm going to bring up in the negatives as well, but this game's not very hard, and I could definitely see that being a pro for some people. I enjoyed it as just kind of a chill, laid-back gaming experience. I didn't feel like I had to get super sweaty or try-hardy with it. I was able to get through the game without beating my head against too many walls, and I put that bullet point in the good and the bad section because that is just personal preference on whether you like that or not. And the last thing I want to talk about on the good side, and this is something I think is really good, is along with the just standard settings that are in this game, you know, when you pause the game, there's just a standard settings menu, but there's also a dedicated accessibility menu. And I think that that's really cool. Some of the accessibility features that are listed there that you can tweak or manage to kind of adjust the game to how you need it to be to experiences it is they have font size, they have background modulation, they have screen shake options, outline options, colorblind modes, and a bunch of additional features. They also just straight up have invincibility. So if you just want to power through this game and see the story and see the levels and the world and just kind of vibe out, throw on the invincibility and have a great time. Now let's talk about some of the things that I think Elsie could do better, or some of the things that didn't really vibe with me. We'll kick this one off with that bullet point I said was in both sections. This game is easy. If you're familiar with this genre, if you're familiar with 2D games, platformers, I don't think you're going to have any trouble with Elsie. There's definitely some sections that can be tough, or some mechanics that we'll get into in a minute that are not very well explained. But as far as the mechanics of the game, fighting your way through the levels, it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. And this could be good or bad, again, depending on what you're looking for. Along with that, the bosses in Elsie are more of a DPS check than they are a satisfying fight. So in my preview video, I talked about the bosses being where the game really turns up the difficulty. And I think that's true if you don't have a very good build, just because there's so much going on screen. There's so many things you have to dodge or keep track of or parry. But if you're doing okay, if you have cobbled together a decent build, then you're probably just going to nuke the boss before it has a chance to hurt you bad enough to kill you. I completed way more runs in Elsie than I died in, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is just something to be aware of. And I think it would be really cool to see the bosses be more of a skill check along with like a build DPS check. But as it stands now, most of the time is, can you melt their health faster than they can melt yours? The other thing I want to talk about is that the progression systems and the item unlocks are not the most clearly explained. For example, I would go back to the hub and I would buy all the stuff that I could afford at the like item and weapon vendor, and then I would run into the next run and just have like an uber build, because as much stuff as I could carry that I just purchased was put on my character. However, on my next run, I was going into the run completely empty-handed unless I went and bought more stuff. What that system does is it puts those items into the rotation for the vending machines and the random pickups and stuff that you get throughout the levels, but that wasn't super clearly explained, and I wasn't sure initially why I was doing so good after spending a bunch of my currency on those items. Eventually I did kind of figure it out, and you will too, but I'm just kind of explaining that now, so maybe you don't have to and you have a little bit more of a upper hand going into the game. I don't think that the system is bad or poorly implemented, but maybe just a little bit more explanation would have been helpful. And the last few things that I'll touch on in this section is the story and the dialogue, and that side of the game did not appeal to me or grab me nearly as much as the gameplay and the aesthetic and just kind of the vibes. That's not uncommon for games like this. A lot of times these are gameplay first kind of games, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going into this because you love Hades, or you're going into this because you're a story first kind of gamer, you may be a little bit let down. There are some interesting characters. There is some voice acting. I think a lot of it is way over the top. And there is a little bit of mystery and intrigue in what's going on in the story, but overall, it's kind of just a means to an end to get you from point A to point B. Along with that story, to progress the game, you have to fight the main android bosses that I referenced in the beginning of this video, and to do that, you have to replay sections of the game enough times to kind of trigger that encounter. So as I was getting towards the end of the game, and I was running these runs trying to trigger those boss fights in order to progress the game. Anytime a boss fight like that didn't trigger, or I didn't get the level that I needed to play consistently, and I had to like do multiple runs to get through that level a few times, they just started to get a little bit tedious on those runs. But again, because the gameplay is so tight and I had a lot of fun with just the gameplay, that part wasn't too bad. But it did start to feel a little bit more repetitious and a little bit more like a chore towards the end of the game to get those main story bosses to trigger. So now I want to talk about who I would recommend Elsie to. I would recommend this game to people who like roguelikes like Dead Cells and Hades and other games in that genre. I think this is a more straightforward and simpler approach to that, but I do think that it does enough in the gameplay department, like with its parry and with some of its other mechanics, that there's some fresh things to discover here. I would also recommend it to people who like 2D action games such as Katana Zero. Again, it's not the exact same thing. It's not one-to-one. Katana Zero is very precise, whereas this is much more bullet hell-esque. But I do think that if you enjoy that fast-paced, blasting music, beautiful pixel art kind of game, this is definitely one to check out. And speaking of that, if you just love awesome music and pixel art, this is another person that I would recommend Elsie to. So what is the verdict? What do I give Elsie on the FN Gamer review scale? I am going to give Elsie a B. There is lots to love when it comes to the gameplay, visuals, and audio, but the systems being poorly explained and a weak story hold it back from that A or S grade. Overall though, I really enjoyed my time with Elsie, and I'm planning to continue playing. I'm also very excited to see what Night Shift Games does in the future. If this is what they did here, I'm very excited for what they have coming down the pipe. If you enjoyed this review, check out some of the others that we've done on our channel, like Dead Cells, Mortal Shell, and more. If you need some help getting started in Elsie, check out the beginner's tips video that I made that is on the channel as well. And if you want to hear my thoughts on a variety of other games, check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts and right here on YouTube. That's all for this one. Stay friendly, gamers.
Check this thing out. In the rear with the gear.